A rugged-looking man sits by a busy street, mindlessly eyeing the many pairs of feet that pass by him. Staggering on his feet, he stands up and walks along the busy road, ignoring a man who asks to pray for him, constantly asking himself how long this will last. He stops by what looks to be an art gallery and gazes at a dark, disturbing painting of what looks to be a monster, with wide eyes and a gaping mouth. A short-haired girl stops by him, looking at the painting herself with curious eyes. When he turns back to look at her, she politely smiles, bows and walks away. But something seems off, because he starts following her. Terrified, the girl begins to run across the street, hoping to lose the weird man. But as she looks back, she finds him right there. The guy, named Nagata, points at her shoes, and then to his, explaining that they are the same ones. The girl, Saki, looks at him with confusion before ignoring him. But he follows along, asking if she is free tomorrow. She politely declines, stating that she does not know him, and hence cannot go out with him. He continuously asks her. At first, she thinks he wants money, but he refuses that offer. She then asks if he feels ill, but he just repeats her words. However, the girl feels bad and takes him along to a cafe, and they have coffee and tea together, smiling shyly at each other. He gets to know that she is from the town Aomori, and did theater in middle school. Upon a suggestion from her friend, she has moved to Tokyo to pursue a career as an actress. She is curious about what he does. He tells her he is a scriptwriter for the theater, but soon adds that it is not much of a living. By his clothing, it seems he does not make enough money. Nagata reminisces about his high school life, where he met a guy named Nohara, the same guy that got him interested in theater and script writing. Nohara knew a lot of things about martial arts, literature, drama, and many other topics. He asked Nagata about the strongest genre, and then showed him a book of comedy and tragedy. One day, they went to a theater in Tokyo, and Nagata was mesmerized by the show. For the first time in his life, he felt happy watching something. He felt fresh and excited. Then, the two friends soon moved to Tokyo and founded their own troupe, known as Oroka. However, they had trouble selling it, and got several negative comments. Back to the present time, he asks Saki which bottle of alcohol would most likely be an assassin, and she replies Yamazaki, the bottle. She also mentions another bottle, and Nagata makes up a story on the spot, impressing her. While parting, Nagata asks about the painting they saw together. She stares at him for a moment, replying awkwardly, and suddenly he runs off, hiding behind a pillar and taking a deep breath. He travels back home on a train, thinking about his life problems, and the way his anxiety disables him from conversing with the pretty girl. The next day, he wakes up to the sound of approaching trains, thinking about having Saki's number, but having no reason to call her. At night, he goes to a restaurant where the people involved in theater mention how their troupe, Oroka, has become a laughingstock. They ask Nagata if he has read the negative comments on their last play, but Nagata snaps at them, saying he does not care what people think. He tells his co-workers that they should have given suggestions, but Tsuji, a blonde colleague of his, tells him he does not listen when told something. Aoyama apologizes reluctantly for being rude to him, but this seems to annoy Nagata, who taunts her and insults her about her appearance. They talk back and forth, which leads to a hurtful argument, and soon Nagata leaves. On his way back home, Tsuji hits him repeatedly, as revenge for the mean things Nagata said before leaving. The next day goes by as he once again thinks of why he even does theater, and at night, he musters up the courage to ask Saki on a date by using furniture shopping as an excuse. The excuse is given to him by his friend Nohara. She agrees, sending him a joyful message about how much free time she has. He seems to have gotten the wrong idea, and replies by apologizing for the trouble he has caused, thinking she does not want to go with him. But soon she clarifies, saying she wants to go. As they are together, a lot of people approach Saki, asking if she wants a job. But she apologizes and carries on walking with him. All the while, Nagata waits by a corner with his head down. When Saki asks why he does that, he says he does not like strangers, and only talks slowly to hide his shyness. Saki tells him that she likes the way he talks, because it gives her time to process his words, to which he asks if she is dumb. She does not seem to mind that, and cracks another joke. Nagata notices how she walks beside him at a reasonable pace, and likes that about her. He thinks most people that walk either too slow or too fast, but he only likes people with the same pace as him. She plays around a bit, jumping and smiling at him, saying that sunsets usually scare her, but today it's okay. He smiles at her upbeat personality, but she pulls him along, asking why he is so serious. He clarifies that he is indeed smiling. At night, Nagata and Nohara sit thinking about who to cast for their new theater production, and Nagata mentions Saki. Later, she sits with him reading his script, and bursts into tears. He situates himself beside her and asks if she wants to play the female lead. She refuses, but the next day, she begins practicing with Nagata and Nohara. They notice how good she is at acting, which is not surprising, because she used to be in theater back in school. The day of the show, the audience really like her presence, and slowly, they increase in numbers. In the after-party, the producer praises the play, and then continues to compliment Saki, saying how Nagata should write a script starring her. The next few days pass, with only Nohara and Nagata acting in plays where the audience seem to be bored, and Nagata narrates that he did not cast Saki in his shows again. After one of his shows, he walks back with the girl silently. He mentions that he soon moved to the apartment right beside Saki and goes home to her house, making her laugh by bringing her a concrete block. He hands her a wallet as a present, reminding her that it is her birthday, and suddenly she starts crying. She walks back and forth while crying before she smiles at him, thanking him. Nagata begins to realize how people like Saki, who openly express their emotions, are beautiful, and he begins mimicking her taste in music as well. One day, Saki's mom sends her a present, and Nagata says that he does not like her mother because of her snide remarks on how a stranger eats the food she sends her daughter. Saki gets a bit emotional, asking him not to badmouth her mother, who works really hard to send her care packages. Angry, Nagata leaves the house and sits outside, thinking of himself as a pathetic guy. Upon returning home and sleeping, he wakes the next day to find a sorry note from Saki and food on the table to warm up. The scene shifts to Saki meeting her friend while Nagata stands behind, waiting for her to finish. After her friend leaves, the energetic Saki asks why Nagata is so closed off with people he does not know or does not like. Nagata mentions how he does not like Disneyland, because he considers them his main competitor. As they sit together, Nagata asks if she wants dinner, but they don't have any money, which means they have to wait for payday to eat out. They sit together in their small apartment room. Saki sews clothes while Nagata draws a new character. Saki would laugh at everything Nagata made for his props, and that's how their nights went. Sometimes Nagata would buy things that he liked and eat the food that he wanted without even paying for rent, which made him guilty, but he was unable to stop. One night, Saki brings in a bike and wears a jacket from a schoolmate, which makes Nagata so jealous that he rides off with the bike, circling around her, ignoring her. He goes back home, and after some time, Saki comes back with snacks that she quietly eats. Nagata asks what is wrong, but she continues eating, asking why he didn't stop the bike for her. They sit in front of each other at a distance, and Saki confesses that sometimes she does not know what to do with him. The scene shifts to Nagata vandalizing the bike, but lying to Saki that he crashed it while riding it. Saki sits dejected and tells Nagata that the bike was special for her classmate. One day, they sit at home together, and Nagata asks why she is not going to school. It appears Saki is more inclined towards earning, as she has two jobs, one during the day and one at night. Meanwhile, Nagata lived a boring and sad life without getting any work done. He would take warm baths to feel as if he did something in life. Saki cuts up some apples for him and asks if he would pay at least the utilities, but he asks why he needs to pay when the apartment is hers. Nagata narrates how he avoided talks of money and the future by appearing melancholic at all times. Saki goes to bed, while Nagata continues playing video games during the night. He plays all night until morning, and continues to play while she gets ready and leaves for her job. After she leaves, he takes a break, falling back on the floor. At night, he goes to watch another show with his friend, and they are surprised to see that the show has several famous people from the industry. It makes Nagata shed tears. After the play, Nagata finds out that the writer of the script is his age, which makes him jealous while walking back home to Saki, who has prepared dinner for them. The next day he has coffee with Aoyama, who compliments Nagata for his failed troupe. She asks how he makes a living, but he says he resides with his girlfriend, which is why he doesn't need to earn. Aoyama asks him to write some articles, and he gladly agrees. Back home, he brings takoyaki, which prompts Saki to ask if something good happened. But he continues talking about other things. He talks about grandmothers, and makes Saki laugh with his jokes, thinking of how he wants this moment to last. Later on, Saki tries to get a bigger apartment with Nagata, but he is not very supportive of that, mainly because he wants to focus on his writing, and soon enough, Saki's presence starts annoying him. He decides to move out, and starts living alone in a small apartment. He feels a sense of relief and peace that way, and feels sorry for Saki. From time to time, he goes with Aoyama to dinner with producers, critics, and writers. On the walk home, Aoyama scolds his bad behavior at dinner, but Nagata continues walking, away from the station. He wants to see Saki, and as he visits her, she seems to be asleep. He covers her up and sits on the floor beside her, trying to wake her up. She talks to him in her sleepiness, and he asks if the place they are at is safe. She says this is the safest place, and hearing that makes him smile. He gets into bed with her and asks if she wants to hold hands. She pets his head as they fall asleep together, and the next day, he has warm tea at her place. She mentions Kamine, the famous scriptwriter who is Nagata's age, and says that he is a local at the pub she works at. Later on, Aoyama mentions knowing Saki, and how a member of the performance they went to see asked her out, but she refused. Aoyama makes fun of the fact that Saki never mentioned that her boyfriend is in theater, which makes Nagata furious. Saki tells him she has never made fun of him because she thinks he is the best, but he gets angrier at that. She gets out of breath and asks for a moment, but in his fury, he leaves the place. After that, he barely goes to her apartment, stays cooped up in his own place, and eats street food. When he gets drunk, however, he longs to see her and visits her, quietly getting into bed with her at night. She feels him there and hugs him while sleeping. But in the mornings, he gets embarrassed of his decision and regrets coming, pretending to be asleep. This continues several times, before Saki lets him know that she is not just a doll, after which she is either not home at night, or drunk. Saki starts being complacent, and when asked if she went to see a play with a guy, she says she did, which makes Nagata angry with her. She tells him he always puts her down by calling her stupid, and then holds his hand, telling him to listen. She gets mad at him, saying he cannot handle it when she compliments someone else's work. He laughs bitterly, and she continues complimenting someone else's play, which makes him throw things at a wall. Saki cries, while saying that she is turning 27. But she is nowhere near settled because she got involved with him. Her friends are getting married, but did not even manage to get a proper apartment with Nagata. She crawls to him, hitting him continuously, and cries. Nagata walks down the street, repeating the same words as he used to "How long will I last?" When night comes, he goes to Saki's house again, and finds her sleeping on the table. She is drunk again, and he tells her being drunk this much is not good for her. He tries to cheer her up like he used to, wearing his mask, but she turns her head away. One day, they walk in the evening together, and soon part as Saki rides her bike away. Nagata's days go by just like that, and one day he gets a text from Saki that they need to talk about the future. He walks down the street and eyes a cherry blossom tree, continuing to walk until he pulls up at the pub Saki works at. He runs into Tadakoro, the guy who likes Saki, and the nice man compliments Nagata's plays before introducing his other colleagues to him. He lets Nagata know that Saki already completed her shift and left. Nagata makes up an excuse to get their manager's address, but as he turns back to leave, Carmine comes out to greet him, asking if he is okay. They share a short conversation, which ends with Carmine telling Nagata that he hopes he will put out a play soon, so he can come watch it. He walks over to the manager's house and finds Saki's bike there. He rings the bell a few times, and soon enough, Saki exits the apartment of the manager. He doesn't say anything, and is uncharacteristically nice to her, telling her to get on the bike. She quietly gets on as he pedals away, talking of the times they spent together, and how he thought she was some sort of god. He mentions how unstable he was when he met her, but she brought happiness in his life. Meanwhile, Saki grabs his coat, hugging him from behind while quietly crying. He tells her he is taking her to see the cherry blossoms, and they ride along a scenic path covered with cherry blossom trees. Saki looks up at them with wondrous eyes. When rainy season arrives, Nagata narrates that Saki began staying at home and drinking too much. The scene shifts to Nagata bursting into her apartment to ask if she is okay, but she talks on about refusing a job and getting insulted by an employee from a hair salon. This makes Nagata furious, and he calls the salon. The employee that insulted her refuses to have him talk to the manager, and in the rain, Nagata sprints out, asking Saki to wait at home. He runs down the street as he gets a call from Aoyama, who is waiting for him with Nohara. They sit with him outside, telling him to break up with Saki because he is only dragging her down and not considering her. Later on, he tells his friends that he has a disease that keeps him from listening to others. His friends laugh at him, telling him he is too serious, and soon he walks back home to Saki, who is even more drunk now. Nagata talks to her as she is drunk, and she laughs while calling him stupid. He finds a CD on her table. It is a CD for a concert. She faces away from him, saying she can watch what she wants to. It is obvious that during the time of their relationship, Nagata did not like her watching boy bands, even asking which one she likes best, to which she replies that each one has his own charm. While watching, she looks at him and says that she does not want to stay in Tokyo any longer. Asking if he will be alright, she does not face him. He replies that he will be okay, and she further explains that her mother is calling her back to relax at home. She apologizes to him, but he smiles, telling her she has no reason to apologize. They sit in silence, listening to the concert. After some time, Nagata narrates that Saki regained most of her health back at home. He realizes that he might have been the one who drove Saki away. She also began working at a store close by her parents. Meanwhile, Nagata cleans up her apartment and puts her things in boxes. While cleaning, he finds his own things in a box, which he opens up. He finds his old scripts, which he flips through, only to find Saki's comments on his script saying he is amazing, which makes him chuckle. As the crows cry, he sits alone on Saki's now empty bed, and his train of thought is interrupted by a doorbell. It's Saki. She has come back to help him pack her belongings, and as they do, she says she will take a bus home. She mentions that she has to pack without feeling sad, or she will be a burden to him again. They read through the script she worked on when he cast her as the female role, reminiscing about the good times. She asks him to read aloud the male part, while she reads aloud the female part. Suddenly while reading, the dialogues seem to match their life, and soon enough, Nagata gets enough guts to confess how much trouble he has been in her life. He smiles, talking about everything he kept inside him. Understanding what is going on, Saki lets loose and vents about everything she kept within as well. She says she was very happy to meet him for the very first time, and that he gave her the strength to walk the streets of Tokyo. She further says if it wasn't for him, she would have left a long time ago. She ends her speech with a bow of respect, and sits beside him, saying it is his turn. He starts off by praising theater, after which he fantasizes about a time in their life where Saki will be healthy, and Nagata will be successful. When that happens, he says, they will be able to eat everything they want, go to the spa, and have coffee together. Suddenly, the house falls, and it turns out Nagata is actually performing. The play is packed with an audience, including Saki, who views the show with tears in her eyes, the story of her and Nagata in her thoughts. The actress playing Saki cries, and Nagata turns to the crowd, looking straight at Saki, and continues his lines as she cries and whispers an apology. He mentions pears, a fruit Saki loves, and looks at her with a desperate expression, closing the lights. When they turn back on, he is in his props, jumping around the same way he used to in order to cheer her up. The last scene shows her smile through her tears, and a huge round of applause. Nagata has finally gained popularity with his script.